gears and talk about another topic in the same arena.
Okay.
There are times when your resume can be all that it needs to be. There are times when you have said all that you need to say in terms of selling yourself.
Okay.
I think sometimes we tend to forget that just because you have what you have and you said what you needed to say, sometimes you don't fit that particular job or that system. We talk about how in the NFL, some players will be good in another system.
Okay.
They're good on this team because that system works for their level of abilities, capabilities. So what message do you give to college kids, or what message do you give to young professionals when they feel like they've said all they needed to say in their resume, they have what they need to have, but the frustration of not getting a yes and feeling like, man, what do I need to do differently? Because there has been times when I've seen people go into a interview and they said all the right things, right? Mm-hmm. They felt like their level of communication was excellent, but then when they went to another position, they did nothing different, but they got the position. So I think it's important that people understand sometimes it's just that was just not for you.
That wasn't yours.
Yeah.
That wasn't yours. But you asked a very specific question. You said, what about college students or anyone else who does not get a particular job, but especially, let's say, college students. You go into the job interview, you don't necessarily get the job. Or you're a young professional and you don't necessarily get the job. Or you may be a more seasoned professional and you don't necessarily get the job. You just know you had the requisite skills based on the requirements of the position. So I think you have to have courage, and I really, really want young professionals and college students to take heed to this. I think you have to have courage, because this happened recently. My wife was hiring for a position, and one person who did not get the job had courage and called once they found out that they did not get the position and said, what can I do differently the next time I apply for a job? What do I need to do differently? And they received very specific feedback on their resume and on how they presented in the interview. And they were very thankful for the feedback. But you have not, or you know not, because you asked not. That if you don't ask those questions and just go off upset or salty or whatever you want to call it, and just go off and say, negative things, then you're not growing and you're not learning what you need to do to improve for the next interview. So I think you got to have courage, because it takes courage to call back and ask someone that question who has basically told you, no, you are not the one.
Yeah. But even after I think it's also important to remember that even after all the no's, that doesn't mean you don't have, how they say, you gotta have the it factor.
Yeah.
Just because there's a no doesn't mean that you don't have the it factor.
Yeah.
That just means that particular position wasn't for you.
Well, the other part about it is, I think it's just like what we're about to go down here and do today with these high school students. If we start teaching our young people early about the importance of developing internships, building their networks, and doing these things early, that by the time they become college graduates or high school graduates, then what they've done is they've been given the requisite knowledge by the people that they've networked with on the things that they need to do as they approach these job seeking opportunities. So I think that you have to learn these things earlier than what has been traditional. And I think that will help the job market. Right. Those going into the job market.
Right. Well, I think that's pretty good conversation for the day.
Absolutely. Once again, this is Mr. M.I.E. Mr. Charles Green,
Mr. YOTD.
Mr. YLTD.